Here I am sitting in a classroom. And our vision, our learning as personal vision, is to build a learning community that meets the individual needs and individual passions of the students we serve. And very closely tied to this concept of community. A community is a group of people with a shared purpose and a shared goal. I've talked about our shared goals with students is to build a community with mutual respect and also a safe learning environment. So coupled very closely with community is safety. And over the last 6 months during the year of 2022, there have been 95 shootings on a school grounds for this year. Unfortunately, it led to deaths of 40 people and also 76 injuries. So these type of incidences could happen on any campus in the United States, in our world, and we as Humboldt ISD and Tascadena Middle School need to take practices, preventative measures to prevent such a thing from happening on our campus. And it first of all starts off with this community that we want to build, a mutual respect in learning. And we do that primarily, the overarching way is through capturing kids' hearts. Capturing kids' hearts is where we co-create the learning environment that we want to have. And it takes place in the classroom where they define what respect for each other looks like and how they'll deal with conflicts if those arise. And we develop a social contract and students sign on it. And our goal is to embody that social contract each and every day. For students that are living up to that social contract, we have a system called PBIS Rewards, where we scan their badges or we use a computer to give them points that they can use to either purchase things from a school store or a classroom store. So we want to recognize the positive behaviors that our students are doing. Unfortunately, there may be times where a student violates this social contract. They are not listening, they're not respectful. And we have a system of how students and staff respond to that. But the system includes behaving out, where students may go through a series of steps and behave out of the activity or behave out of the classroom. And then, like a restorative circle, they have to make things right to come back into the classroom. So those are just some of the ways that we're trying to create a culture of community on our campus. One of the attributes with regards to safety is around cell phones, that many of our young people, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, have access to a cell phone. And some have the discipline to use those at appropriate times, but also some of our young people are struggling with the discipline and discernment of how to use a cell phone appropriately. So with regards to safety, we understand parents who say that they want to be able to access their child if there were an emergency situation to make sure they're safe. And we agree with you. We want to be able to help and facilitate your child being able to communicate with you if there is an emergency situation. At the same time, on a day-to-day basis, cell phones can be a significant distraction to learning for our young people. And it could be just social media, but it could also be some of the games that pop up notifications or notifications from family members texting back and forth. So those things can distract the learning environment. So each and every day, we ask our young people to have their cell phones in their backpacks, to have it in their purses, to have it off their person, so that it is not a distraction buzzing in their pockets or having a need to look at their cell phones. But at the same time, if they need to access their cell phones, that they can seek permission from an adult, and we would facilitate them using their cell phone to contact a parent. Whenever a student is sick, we want them to be able to go to the nurse and get immediate attention, and then the nurse would be able to communicate directly with a parent or guardian about the welfare and the health of their child. It's very difficult whenever a child communicates directly with their health about with a parent, and then a school is unaware of it. Like, for example, when a parent shows up and says, my child is sick, and we're unaware of it. So please ask your child to speak with an adult, to go to the nurse, when there are any health needs, and then we will communicate with the parent. Additionally, thanks to Humboldt ISD and also as part of the Learning as Personal Vision, AMS has almost 900 Chromebooks for access for our students, which means that students can use technology through the Chromebook and don't need their cell phone to access for instructional purposes. However, there are a few classrooms that do not have technology or access technology, so in those cases, Students may use cell phones for instructional purposes with the permission of an adult only. Students who are pulling out cell phones for non-instructional purposes or without the permission of adults might have that cell phone taken up and taken to the office, and there's a series of steps that could take place with regards to the cell phone. And students would receive their cell phone on the way home, but if there is repetitive behavior, then there's a series of steps that would be taking place. And lastly, with regards to cell phones, if a student were to pull out a cell phone and it is used to either film a fight or film a conflict, or it is used to escalate a conflict, then a student will receive a consequence. So for example, if there is a fight or a conflict taking place and a student were to pull out a cell phone to film it, then the students who are in the conflict and the students who are filming it would both receive a consistent consequence. The reason why is because we want our students to know that they need to intervene or stop or de-escalate a conflict instead of pulling out a cell phone, which encourages or leads to the continuation of that. So please instruct your child whenever there is a conflict to not pull out their cell phone, because we do not want to encourage or escalate those types of situations. And lastly, for many years, Humble ISD has required that secondary students wear IDs. And AMS, for various reasons, have not been consistent with that. But this year, due to just the increase of just conflicts and issues going across the United States, we are going to be tighter, much tighter for IDs. Meaning students need to be wearing their ID around the neck on a lanyard or on a retractable loop on their waist area. It needs to be visible at all times from when they walk in at 8 o'clock all the way until they leave the building at 4 o'clock. So please make sure that your child has a designated spot in their backpack or purse, so every time they take it off in the afternoon, and they would put it in a designated spot, and then they would know where it is the next morning. Because students that do not have an ID will have to have a temporary sticker badge, and there will be a cost for that each and every day. We do encourage our parents whenever they buy an ID, and first of all, the first ID and lanyard for all of our students is at no cost. But if a student does misplace or deface the ID badge, then they will have to purchase a new one. And that is $3 for an ID badge and $1 for a lanyard. So if parents want to buy multiple copies of an ID badge so they have backups in case a student loses one, that would be perfectly fine. We encourage that. But please know, if a student loses their ID badge or defaces it where it cannot be repaired, then they will have to buy a new ID badge in the morning between 8 and 8:30. So they order their ID badge between 8 and 8:30, and they receive it at lunch later that afternoon. All right, thank you very much.